This is the new Bambu Lab P1P, and this 3D printer and its big sibling, the X1, are going to change 3D printing forever. In this video, I'll tell you why I think this is the start of a new era in 3D printing, how this is already changing the 3D printer market, and whether or not you should buy one, considering how hard it might be to make repairs and upgrades. This is Dave Tries This. I'm David Schloss. Let's give this a try. Personally, I think that Bambu Lab might be the Apple of 3D printing. It's about to bring a more sophisticated experience to the 3D printer world, and it's going to usher in a brand new era of new customers and expand the possibilities of 3D printing. But Bambu Lab's approach to making proprietary equipment is upsetting so many 3D purists, sparking debates online about whether the company is good for the market or bad for the market. Bambu Lab has potentially revolutionized 3D printing by ushering in a whole new era of enthusiasts that want to print things, but they don't want to spend weeks or months or even years learning how to build and service a 3D printer. Bambu Lab has a very interesting idea about 3D printing, which is it is too complicated for most people to get involved in, and I 100% agree with this. 3D printing for about a decade now hasn't really advanced. What happens when you take somebody that's passionate about the idea of 3D printing and you give them a pile of stuff that is so hard to use that they want to hit it with a hammer? Meanwhile, Bambu has a marketing claim of 15 minutes from unboxing to printing, and that's exactly what I experienced. They've also created a very interesting multiple filament system that can automatically switch colors or material types, which is already changing how people design and print objects. But Bambu Lab is driving some long-time 3D print enthusiasts crazy. I mean, like bonkers crazy. In forums, some of them are talking about Bambu Labs like they've designed their machines as if they were some sort of supervillain trying to destroy the tri-state area and the world of 3D printing. That's because Bambu Lab has taken a different approach to design than most companies. So why is this the Apple of 3D printing? When Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple, the computer world was very much like the 3D printer world. If you wanted a computer, you had to go somewhere like Radio Shack, buy the individual components and solder them together yourself. Then you had to write the software to make them work. For those with a background in electronics, this was part of the fun. Take a handful of components designed to run a TV or a refrigerator, turn them into a powerful personal computer. But no one but the geekiest of tinkerers wanted to build that computer. That left the personal computer in limbo. It was in the hands of only those with engineering degrees or advanced training. But the nice thing about that open model was that anybody with the skills could build a computer, and anyone with a soldering iron could fix or modify one. What Apple famously did was get rid of this do-it-yourself requirement by selling people the completely built and ready-to-run computers. They turned from an open source approach to a proprietary one, assembling everything from the cases that the computer was in to the logic board and the keyboard. They also wrote the operating system for the Apple, so the computer was ready to perform actual tasks right out of the box with minimal setup. When I got my first Apple II Plus back in the late 1970s, I was able to unbox it, connect it to an Apple monitor and an Apple floppy drive, and play games in under 30 minutes. This was the revolution that ushered in the era of personal computers because it eliminated the barriers to entry. Bambu Lab is doing the same thing because they've designed and optimized the printer using the parts they selected, the building processes they designed, and the software that they update. They can eke the best performance out of this printer. And like Apple's later Macintosh computers, the engineers behind the Bambu Lab printers aren't from the 3D printing world. I talked with the company's press team, and it turns out that the engineers developing the X1 and the P1P hadn't been longtime 3D printer developers. You might think this would be a disaster, but this is how Apple approached the Mac, too. They brought together people from different backgrounds, and they all worked towards a computer that solved problems in a whole new way. The engineers at Bambu Lab were able to look at the existing 3D printers and see not only what was right with them, but by coming into the experience from different fields and with fresh eyes, they could quickly see what was wrong with the experience without their approach being colored by their history in 3D printing. But it also means that if you've got a squeaky bearing block like a YouTuber did, you can't replace the thing yourself. The parts aren't even available. And as of right now, there aren't really any aftermarket parts for it either. You can't just go and grab a 6mm nozzle for this because the whole heatsink is one piece. Third-party print surfaces are just starting to arrive. If there's a feature you want the software to have, well, you're going to have to wait till they add it. Generally, the Bambu Lab software is great, and I have to spend very little time tweaking the settings to get good prints. You still need to understand slicing and settings, but for basic prints, you can just import a file and print from the software. Bambu Labs also use the company's own cloud service for printing. Your Bambu Studio app can print from anywhere without the need to add something like a Raspberry Pi to control the printer. The company's Bambu Handy app can monitor and control the prints remotely. Neither as good though as the experience with Octo Everywhere and OctoPi, but for someone who doesn't want to buy a Raspberry Pi and put an operating system on it, the Bambu Lab approach is better. But the downside is, what happens if their cloud goes down? The other thing that's driving some people crazy is the price. The P1P is $700 and the X1 is as high as $1,500. You can get what I'm calling a second generation printer for around $300 online, and people who want to tinker with the printers think it's a much better deal. So the price is making some people cuckoo, but I think it's important to remember that owning a Bambu Lab printer doesn't mean that you don't own something else. If you want to go and learn how to tinker with a printer, spend $200 on Amazon and you can get one that you can modify as much as you want. It's especially great because if you buy a cheaper printer and you mess around with the settings, you can learn a lot about the whole 3D printing world anyhow. My last comparison to Apple is how the Bambu Lab printers are changing the whole market. In just the short time since the Bambu Lab printers became available, long-standing companies in the space are rushing to catch up with its performance. Prusa, for example, might finally ship their XL printer, which has been coming soon for so long that most people think it's actually vaporware. Now it has a date of the second half of 2023, which I gotta say is still a long time from now. Creality, who helped shape the modern 3D printing world with the Ender series, has been teasing a new flagship model, the K1, and the current teasers talk about one thing: speed. So even if you never buy a Bambu Lab printer, they've already started to change the 3D printing space. For a new or an experienced 3D printer, I can't recommend the Bambu Lab P1P enough. My experience with the other printer that I was building is, I think, really typical of the new 3D user, and I want that to change. I don't want people to open up a box with a 3D printer in it and be so frustrated that they never see what it's like to have something that they've designed turn into something that is real. So what do you think about Bambu Lab printers? Do you own a 3D printer? Are you just looking to get into 3D printing? How does the Bambu Lab printer series sound to you? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this kind of video, please hit the subscribe button. Over here you can find more of my honest reviews, and you can subscribe to the channel here, please do. Down here you can get yourself some sweet, sweet merch. For Dave Tries This, I'm David Schloss, and as always, thanks for giving this a try.